Good morning, everybody. It's Steph Aubrey here from the Amusement Network. And today I am joined by none other than Simon Barff, who's the Managing Director of CLMS. Many of you will know Simon very well, from his days at Blueprint and his long career in the industry. Simon, welcome.
Morning, Steph.
Morning.
Always a pleasure.
Simon, tell us a little bit about CLMS, what it does and who your clients are, for those who don't know.
Yeah, so CLMS is a specialist data audit company. We work to help our pub retail clients to understand better their machine revenue, whether that be gaming machines or pool tables. So we collect data directly from all of the machine suppliers. We process and audit that through our tools and our systems. And we've been doing that for about 35 years now. And we work for probably about 50%, or we cover roughly about 50% of all of the pubs that are in the sector. We work with large companies such as Green King, Stonegate, JDW, but we also deal with small multiples, and right down to we've got one pub customer who's got one site at the minute with gaming machines. And so we cover a wide breadth of clients, and we produce all of their data audit and all of their reporting and all their cash reconciliation. But it gives us a great insight into what's happening in the marketplace because of that amount of data that we've got and the knowledge that we've got historically. So our first customer was Green King, who we picked up in 1989, I think it was, looking back at the files. So we've been going for quite a long time, and we don't get involved in anything else. We're truly independent, so we're not aligned with any other manufacturing or machine suppliers. So we can give that impartial view on the marketplace.
Yeah, and many of us will remember Colm Taylor as well, who was did he found the business, Simon?
He started the business, yeah. So Colm left Whitbread and started his own small pub company. And I think it's Trent Taverns or something similar, with a guy that he'd known from Whitbread. And then he came out of that and started the machine audit company that became CLMS. And at the time he was working for his own pub company and Green King, and then just expanded from there. So yeah, so Colm's still involved in the business.
You've been with CLMS how many years now?
I started in 2019, so 4 years, just over 4 years now.
It's an interesting time to start. And tell us, Anna, what's the data? What is the data sort of telling you at the moment about the market and how things are going?
Remarkably well. I mean, obviously, putting a pandemic into the middle of my 4-year tenure here wasn't the best of times, but it allows us to sort of reset where we were. Thankfully, there's now as many machines back in the pub sector as there were previously. We're still getting new machines put into sites. I think the revenue and the VTP that we can see is far higher than it used to be. Well, not far higher. It's back above where it was pre-pandemic levels.
When you say VTP, for those who don't know,
right? Yeah, VTP is the value of the total play. So you get cash into the machine, but then you can replay your winnings. So we calculate the total amount of play that's going through the machines. So if in a retail world, that'll be your turnover figure, and then we end up with a profit at the end of that, which is what the machine suppliers and our clients share. So yeah, as strong as it's ever been, which is great news, despite the fact that we've got so much financial pressure in the marketplace. And I think realistically, quite a lot of our leased and tenanted businesses would be closing if it wasn't for the revenue that they're receiving from the machines that they've got inside.
Gosh, incredible.
And we are seeing that more and more of the leased and tenanted pub companies are trying to help their leased and tenanted customers to understand the benefits of putting more machines out there, which is great because it helps them to offset some of the increases in utilities costs that they've got at the minute.
So the machine sector is really as important as it's ever been in terms of contributing to the pub's bottom line.
Yeah, and I think there's more and more pub companies realising that. I'm not saying that they didn't, but there's more and more pub companies are not taking it as a throwaway profit line. They're actually seeing it as their third income stream, because they've only got food, drink, and pay to play that they can gain revenue from. So it is really a vital part of that, and it doesn't really impinge on anything else in their business. I mean, we do a lot of work with our clients on trying to understand the benefit of a machine compared to a square foot of carpet that can put 1 two-seater table on.
Yeah.
And it's that kind of, it's the most profitable square foot of retail estate they've got when they start breaking it down. So a lot of our partners and retail customers take it very seriously and sort of put the right amount of emphasis into driving it forward.
Fantastic. And are there any other interesting trends that you're seeing in the data within these figures that you just discussed?
Yeah, I think it's really great to see the amount of good quality digital product that's coming into the marketplace. It's really interesting. Obviously, from my time at Blueprint, I had a great insight into that as well. And it's exciting to see there's so much investment from the machine operators going into that product, because it is so much more expensive than the old analog equipment used to be.
Yeah.
But because they can maintain the quality of the content and the new games that are coming through onto those platforms, they are staying on site for a lot longer than they used to do. So there is that general benefit from a machine supply point of view that they can actually get some profit out of operating that more expensive product.
Yeah.
But the concern always is, will the quality of the content coming through and the new games coming through be powerful enough to actually maintain the levels and increase the levels of income that are going in there? And at the minute, we're seeing some really, really good new content coming through from all of the manufacturers.
Great.
Yeah, so we've got the Blueprint and the Astra product that lead the market in the number of machines they've got out there. But then we've got really good stuff coming through from Innovate, and Reflex have been around for a long time and obviously doing what they do, and their new content is really punching it as well now. So I think all across the board, we've got really good competition, we've got really good product flow, and giving the operators and the retailers a really good choice out there.
Is there a specific style to the games that are performing well? We've heard people say that more slot style play is popular these days in pubs.
I think there's a good mix of styles of game. They are virtually all slot styles games, but there's slot style games with free spins, such as Fishing Frenzy, and everybody's got their own version of a fishing game with free spins. But then there's the mega waste stuff, which is lots and lots of different win lines that Blueprint introduced off the back of some of their online stuff. There's still some roulette games out there that are popular with some of the players, predominantly on the Astra product, but there is some good stuff coming through on that. It always used to be the Irish games that took money, but now we're seeing that move away from that into more fishing style games and Horace sort of Egyptian type games. So a really good mix of new styles of content coming through, but it's still predominantly slot play. High percentage payout, so keeping the players interested and giving them more of a fairer go for their money, which I think is why we're seeing that level of interest and play going up on a regular basis, and then sort of continuing week on week.
And I mean, I'm sure it varies from game to game, but when do you see the drop off? If a new game comes on, I imagine you see an uptake in player interest. When does that, say, fade?
That's a really interesting question, and it's not always easy to answer it, because some games, they'll go onto a box, sit there in the background for months and months and months, and then slowly start to gain player interest. And then can end up in the top sort of 2 or 3 games, but last a long time. Yeah. Other games can come in and get a really good interest to start with, and then drop off within a few weeks. I would love to be able to give you the answer to that, and I'd love to be able to understand what it is behind it, because there's lots and lots of people get paid lots and lots more money than me to try and work out that kind of stuff. And it's really difficult to tell. But predominantly, a lot of the games that are coming through now are based on the better performing online stuff.
Yeah.
So when it comes down, it's already got a good amount of player interest, and it's that cross fertilization of game content that I think's helping the pub market and the sort of agency sector to benefit from those games.
It's interesting. You can see why people like Matt Ingram at Reflex developing these closer relationships with the online side of things and third-party developers, because this is where it seems to be coming from. Yeah,
absolutely, and it's really helpful to get those external ideas coming into it, and I do like what Reflex have just done on that side. It's very open thinking to bring somebody else about it.
Yeah, definitely. The white paper, are there any areas in there that piqued your interest in particular in terms of game development or sort of restrictions?
I think obviously the biggest thing from our point of view is I think we're the last, apart from the hand car which I got down the road, but the last bastion of retail that's not allowed to take debit cards for payments. And to get those debit cards in there is obviously what we're all looking for. But it's what goes with it. How many hoops we're going to have to go through, and what the unintended consequences are of having to have more control in place and more, I don't know, app-based play or wallet-based play, so that we can get that player tracking and player security in place to make sure that we're monitoring the vulnerable and making sure that we keep harm away from the gaming sector. So I think, on one hand, really great that we're going down that route. On the other hand, I think everybody's treating it with the right amount of caution.
Yes, because I suppose it's necessarily going to add some friction in terms of the player, and that can, as we know, that can then lead to people deciding not to play, for example, or
we're seeing that already on some of the age verification trials that are coming in with the ITL facial recognition software and the GPT software that they've got. We're already seeing that in the trials that are taking place, that the revenue's down compared to what it was before the trial was activated. And if it's down against that, with income going up week on week, it's further down than it should have been. So we're already seeing that where the introduction of the AV is activated, we're actually seeing that players are choosing to move away. Now, that's not to say that the players that aren't playing it are underage. It just means that the players that are playing it don't want their image capturing. And they know that you can tell them all you like, we're not going to use your image, we're not going to capture your image, we're not going to maintain your image, and we're not going to keep it anywhere and keep it in file and keep tracking you. But there are a lot of paranoid people out there that I just don't want anybody to know what I'm doing. I want to keep my spending habits to myself.
Yes. Yeah. Well, it's understandable. I mean, what sort of levels of reduction are we seeing there on these activated machines?
The ones that we've been looking at recently, it's about 10 to 15% down.
So significant.
Oh yeah, it's significant. It's a significant downturn in revenue, but it is early days, so we don't know whether that's an adoption curve, whether we're going to see that initial don't want to play it, but then players, because we tend to be creatures of habit, so players will probably go to the same pubs to play machines if that's what they're going to do. But I think it's a secondary activity, not a primary activity. So there is that. Yes, if machine players are in a pub playing a machine, they might choose to go to a different machine, or they might choose to wait until they get to the next pub the first time they go. But we don't know what happens the second and third time they go. I think one of the things that we need to probably do with that software, first of all, is set the right baseline. I'm not sure anybody's doing it yet, but we've been speaking to a couple of operators about it, and making sure that we understand what the player profile is at the point in time when we start the trial. So we run it for a few weeks before, without actually telling the players that the tracking's activated, so we can see what's going on. But again, are you allowed to do that? And do we need to tell the player and on all the rest of it? Because unless you do that, you don't really know what the impact's been.
No, you need that baseline really to be clear.
Otherwise, I think a lot of the trials that have gone out there are a knee-jerk reaction to some of the local authorities, like Redbridge and some of the others, where the local authorities have been vociferous about their testing process. And I think we need to make sure that if the trial's there just to prove that the software works and it's going to be rolled out, no matter what the commercial impact is, then fine. But I think there needs to be a trial that's based around, well, what is the commercial impact, and what are we actually achieving by utilising this software to do what we're expected to do.
Yes, and also what's the cost, I suppose, to the operator of introducing all of this as well?
Well, there is a massive financial impact, because a lot of the historic machines that are out there won't take the software and don't have a camera in there of a high enough quality to be able to do it, or a camera at all. So there is a lot of investment from the machine operators, which needs to be paid for by the retailer at some point.
Yes, but I think that the reduction in play is not a factor that perhaps has been highlighted thus far when looking at this. The initial reaction is, what's this going to cost? to roll this sort of thing out across the board, but there could be hidden costs, is what you're saying, really.
Yeah, although they're not too hidden. There is an element of pub companies are having to do it because they're being targeted. So local authorities are targeting some of the bigger pub retail customers, and they need to show that they're being proactive in trying to get better compliance in place. I think the problem we don't know is, and we assume there isn't, but we don't think there is an underage gambling problem in the pub retail sector to any great extent. No more than there would be anywhere else. But it's that, because gaming in the pub retail sector is a secondary activity, not a primary activity, the staff are less engaged with that side of the business, and I think that's where the issue comes in. It's how much time does a test purchase take compared to how much time are the members of staff given to actually challenge a player.
Yeah.
And it's something, well, the test purchases are what the test purchases are, and I think that's what they're trying to overcome, is the be more successful in challenging the test purchases and try and get the percentage of underage-ish players captured before they can actually play a machine.
But we do have an issue, I think, for the industry as a whole, in the sense of players reacting against the government's wish to gain more information about them.
Oh yeah, definitely. I mean, I think we can say, well, I've got a live example of one of my friends has got an arcade up in the Keighley, Bradford area, and he was going to close that up until recently, when his local betting shop started asking for proof of funds and bank statements, and those players that were historically in the betting shop are now moving into his arcade. So it's a case of they want to keep their spending habits to themselves, and it doesn't say they've got a problem. It doesn't say there's anything untoward going on. It just means they just want to keep their spend patterns to themselves.
Yeah, you can understand that. If you were lobbying for any changes to the law as it stands at the moment, where would you focus? You mentioned debit cards. Are there any other areas that you would like to see deregulation?
Not so much deregulation, but I think part of the technical standards to allow the game designers to be more fluid with what they're doing. So maybe a relaxation. I know some of the manufacturing companies are looking for a new categorization of the gaming machine, so that they can play around with the stakes and prizes internally within there. That wouldn't be a bad thing, because it again allows them to start thinking outside the box with what they're doing and how they can get more entertainment for the players within the scope. So it's not all slot-based games, but there's a different style of game. Outside of that, I just think the guys that are out there are doing a really good job and putting a lot of investment into making sure that the operators and the pub retailers end up with a really compelling offer. And it's working really well. So long may that continue, and they continue to be able to invest in that marketplace. But yeah, I think we just need to be careful about making sure that we don't rush headlong into something that we can take a little bit longer to understand, and make sure that any rollout of AV is done in the right way, and that it doesn't become a Pandora's box for us all, and we end up knackered with it.
That's a good point to close on, I think, Simon. No, very, very well said. Absolutely. Thank you very much indeed for joining us.